We're coming down to the end of TwinTech 2020, our digital Rubicon. And for our penultimate segment, I'm so excited to introduce to you a good friend of mine, a colleague at the Kellogg School of Management, Professor Nicholas Pearce, who also happens to be a pastor at the Apostolic Church of God in Chicago. The Apostolic Church entered the history books many years ago when Dr. Martin Luther King visited and preached at that church during his visit to Chicago. There's no one better to address the topic of purpose and why. With that, Professor Nicholas Pearce. Nicholas, join me on stage. And let's do the there you go, the COVID elbow bump.
The COVID-19 pandemic has been one of the most globally disruptive forces of our lifetimes. It's laid bare the terribly clear social, economic, educational, and health inequities that have fueled contemporary society as we knew it. Yes, knew it. Many are hoping that we'll simply be able to return to a pre-pandemic normal, a version of life as we knew it, as though this pandemic is nothing more than a terrible passing storm. It's just an interruption in our status quo. To be sure, this has been a cataclysmic storm of epic proportions for many of us, resulting in the loss of lives, the loss of livelihoods, the loss of vision, and certainly deferred dreams. We have seen the adverse effects of psychological and physical distancing, social distancing from our support systems, relational and financial stress, cultural change, and other effects too numerous to name. Yet, this pandemic is not simply a terrible blizzard that has come to paralyze us for a while and then melt away. According to one of my colleagues, this pandemic is more like the dawn of a mini ice age, a once-in-a-lifetime shift that is unfreezing our assumptions about the way things have always been and must forever be. I'd argue that this is a time for all of us to rethink our scripts and to rethink our playbooks and to rethink our routine. It's a time for us to summon the resilience and the clarity that will allow us to see the opportunities that lie before us. This is an opportunity to create a more just, more loving society. It's an opportunity to make poverty and hunger relics of a bygone era. This is an opportunity to make access to clean water and quality health care and quality education the basic human rights that they always should have been. This is an opportunity to care for all of creation so that our children's children's children will be able to enjoy a sustainable world. No matter how beautiful our homes may be, Emerson said it's no good if the planet they're on isn't too solid. This is a moment to truly commit to no opportunity being wasted. But the question I pose to you this day is, which opportunity is yours to seize? Which work is yours to do? Why have you even survived through all of the vicissitudes of your life and through the various decades and ups and downs? Why have you survived all those challenges that cost others their lives to be able to have this conversation with yourself right now? The answer, I believe, is that you have the opportunity now, today, to embrace your unique purpose path. So every single one of us has a purpose. Every single one of us has a reason for being that's as unique to us as our very own DNA. Whether you're 10 or 110 or somewhere in that big middle, there's a reason why you're still on the planet. None of us knows how many years we have left in our lives, but we can all make it our business to ensure that there is life left in our years. And in a moment like this, I believe with all my heart that it is easy to be paralyzed by the enormity of the moment, or even scatterbrained. On the other hand, trying to pursue every opportunity as it comes up, even if those opportunities are not the ones that you have been uniquely well suited to address. Before you go figuring out your purpose and putting this on your master to-do list, I want to encourage you with a thought from a friend of mine named Parker Palmer. Parker says purpose doesn't work like that. Parker says that it's not a goal to be achieved, but a gift to be received. This means that no matter how fast the future is coming at us, we have to commit to being still enough to discern which part in the symphony of human progress is ours to play. Before we go haphazardly picking up the nearest instrument and investing our time and talent in the wrong space. I know we live in a productivity-crazed society, and in this world of ours, it is tempting to look at stillness and misinterpret it as counterproductive. It is tempting to view hyperactivity as the only purposeful use of one's life and time. But on the contrary, stillness has the power to center us and to refresh us for the grueling journey ahead of us. And if the truth be told, some of us refuse to be still because we don't like ourselves and who we've become so much that we're afraid of what introspection and self-reflection and stillness, maybe even prayer, might reveal to us about how we've been misusing our gifts, abusing ourselves, and robbing the world of the gift of our unique genius. See, to walk along our unique purpose path, we can't start by looking at the world around us and all of its attendant difficulties and challenges and opportunities. We must first turn within to ask ourselves, how does your soul define success? Not how do others define it, not how do your neighbors define it, not how does your family or your company or your board or your network define it. How do you define it? So most of us don't take the time to even consider how we ourselves define success. We just take the definitions that are handed to us for granted. We take those definitions and we start climbing the nearest ladder. But there comes a point where we must reckon with the fact that it might be the case that we've been climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. There comes a point at which we recognize that while perhaps we've been scoring well on the various scorecards that have been handed to us by our families or our organizations or even the media, there's an internal alarm that refuses to be silenced, that you cannot snooze, alerting us to the sobering fact that we have failed to attend to the scorecard of our own soul. We've spent more time and energy trying to impress people who don't even like or care about us than we have spent living into the truest expression of who we've always been created to be. And once you waken yourself to that alarm, you can't unhear it. Thus begins the journey of purpose. It's a journey of what I call vocational courage. This idea of vocation is not about a blue-collar trade or career. Vocation comes from a Latin word meaning calling. It is a journey of having the courage to respond to your calling. It's a journey on which you develop clarity regarding your life's work, and a journey on which you build the stubborn resolve to make the difficult decisions that are necessary to align your daily work with your life's work. It's the invitation to bravely conjoin your soul with your role and be who you were created to be before you do what you were created to do. This is not an easy call by any stretch of the imagination, but it is an urgent one. In fact, I would argue that it's the most urgent call you will ever receive, and there is no amount of call screening that will allow you to escape it. It requires strength, requires bravery. It will be difficult and perhaps even at times a bit dangerous. It requires the reckless humility to know that you did not create yourself, and also receiving the gift of the assurance of knowing that just like clay on the potter's wheel, you are loved and molded by your Creator into becoming your very best. Not for your benefit, not for your praise, not for your ability to amass accolades and materialistic, capitalistic trophies, but for the good of humanity. Having your feet firmly planted on your purpose path will give you the vision you need to see the challenges of a fast approaching future and see your unique place in the solution. And if your vision only involves you working along your purpose path by yourself, allow me to nudge you here and humbly suggest that your vision just might be a bit too small. Transformation of any scale takes collaboration. And if there's anything our world needs more of now, it is people who know how and have the will to reach beyond the boundaries of their respective tribe, to love and serve with one another for the greater good. Our environment needs you. Our institutions, public and private, need you. Our children need you. Our cities and towns and nations need you. The generationally unhoused and unfed and unemployed and unequally treated need you. I need you. You need me. Time is now. The moment is now. This is the moment we've been waiting for, and the decision is yours. The decision is mine. So I will leave you with the words of this wonderful benediction. May the road rise to meet us. May the wind always be at our backs as we traverse this purpose path.
Nicholas, that was more than we could ever have hoped for. Thank you again so much for being here. I knew you would bring that, but it's truly a treat and a gift.
Thank you for having me.
So I have a question for you. You work with executives, you work with students at Kellogg, you work with your parishioners at the church and friends. This is a big challenge you've given us to find not only purpose, but to start with stillness, something we're not so familiar with. What is one action or exercise or piece of advice you can offer to help us understand how do we even get started with that notion of stillness?
I think part of this whole idea of stillness is really an act of faith. It is admitting to oneself that the world does not turn because of our activity. The world turns, the sun rises and sets based on the power of God beyond us. And so part of this is an exercise in admitting to ourselves that no matter how high capacity and how high octane we are, not only can the world afford for us to press pause, but we can't afford not to press pause. That we can actually receive more being still than we can running feverishly, because we ceaselessly strive and we work and we toil and we exert energy doing, because we think that our doing is our value.
We've been taught that.
Absolutely we have. That we are really worth no more than the value of what we produce. And that makes us into human doings, not human beings. And you and I have both written about this idea that automation is threatening or at least challenging the very reality of what it means to be a human being. Because if we chart our humanity based on our deeds, on our productivity, and machines can now outproduce the deeds, then what does that leave us with? And that leaves us with the one thing that a machine can never have, and that is a soul. A self-determined desire to understand why am I here and what should I do about it, and the ability to connect with one's creator.
And that doesn't happen simply by being frenetic every moment of the day.
Not at all. Not at all. You cannot hear while you're talking. Right?
I'm sorry, what?
You can't. Exactly.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry. Yeah, broke the mood.
No, that's good.
No, but I mean, your comment, I've never thought about it that way, but stillness is an act of faith. It also sounds, Nicholas, like stillness is an act of courage because you never know what might be staring back. And one way to avoid it, as you said in your remarks, was to just keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. But it's also a very rational act because it sounds like we could unlock far more by so doing. Well, I took so much from your comments. A loss of vision and deferred dreams, unfreezing of our assumptions, rethinking our playbooks. Which opportunity is yours to unlock? Because we must avoid being paralyzed or scatterbrained. We also must, though, ask these questions before we put it on our master to-do list. Be still enough. How often have we been told this by our parents, by our teachers, by our pastors, by certainly our boss? Be more still. Have we been misusing our gifts? This is a concern to reflect on every day. How does your soul define success? Do we have even asked that question? We've been awakened to this alarm, Nicholas, and we cannot unhear it. One of the reasons I invited you is you're able to span various areas in the world, various, as our good friend Anna Canelano says, orbits. And we bring words to each other that you don't often hear in business or government or large NGOs, and that's the word that you used 4 times, which is love. And it's a word that all of our Twinians know we mean here. We are here, we are twinned because we love each other. We don't love each other because we're here. It's the opposite. Nicholas, the world needs more of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.